Meeting of the April 6, 2024 Fitchburg Conservation Commission at 6:06 p.m. on April 3rd. Sorry. The Conservation Commission has 7 members. Members are citizens residing in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. The commission is appointed by the City Council and serves on a volunteer basis. The Commission collaborates with the residents, businesses, and organizations to facilitate compliance with the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Fitchburg Wetlands Bylaw. Meetings of this commission are subject to and abide by the open meeting law. If you would like more information about any of these regulations, feel free to ask a commissioner, agent, or environmental consultant. Thank you for your commitment to the conservation of our natural resources. Thank you for your patience as we navigate this hybrid meeting. The Commission requests that folks wishing to speak approach the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, stating your name and address. Remote attendees maintain microphones on mute for privacy. If you would like to speak, use the chat or raise your hand function to alert us of your intentions. Be advised this public meeting is being live streamed and recorded by FATV. If a member of the in-person audience is recording this meeting, this is your opportunity to identify yourself for the public record. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Here.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Yep.
Commissioner Tantanarawan?
Here.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Here.
Associate Commissioner Peltier?
Here.
Associate Commissioner Wallace?
Yes, here.
Okay, welcome. Let's
Did you call Mark?
stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And under announcements, I know there's some Earth Day activities coming up. Berlin, do you feel comfortable updating us?
Yes. So
Thank you.
we have, it's up on the screen now. The City of Fitchburg celebrates Earth Day 2024. This is our 3rd annual Earth Day event, and it will be Sunday, April 21st from 12 to 3 p.m. at Riverfront Park. There will be a bunch of organizations present and vendors who promote sustainability within the city. We will have a clothing swap, and we will have a plant swap as well, a vegan food truck, and other vendors who will be providing goods to people. A children's activity where we will be making seed balls where kids can then disperse them throughout the city or within their own backyard. It's going to be a fun time, and I hope people show up.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Oh, okay. Moving forward, a public hearing won't open without submittal of a complete application to include abutter notices, payment of all fees. Do we have all the notices, the required notices
Yes.
for this evening? Okay. So, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for request of determination of applicability, 80 Sheldon Road.
And
Who do we have speaking to this?
Mr. Douglas Best. Mr. Best. I've asked him to unmute.
Mr. Best?
He's available to speak.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
Can you-
Best.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
The chair recognizes Mr. Best.
Yes. Hello?
The chair recognizes Mr. Best.
Yes.
Do we want him to explain his plan to us?
Mr. Best, would you like to speak to the request?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What I'm looking to do is to put up a garden shed on the left side of the driveway. And part of the garden shed, I think maybe 10% of it is within the 50-foot wetland offset. And it's about the only reasonable place to put it on the lot. Now, does the committee have any questions of me?
Thank you, Mr. Best. Herlin, the chair recognizes Herlin.
So Mr. Douglas reached out about a proposed shed on his property within the 50-foot buffer zone. I went on and looked at where the shed would be and advised Mr. Best that there is already some erosion on that side of the property. Commissioner Jacobs and I had gone on this site a few months ago, and my suggestion was that the shed be put in a different location. Mr. Best did provide a second location for the shed, and I'm not sure if that's the most appropriate location. There is some sort of pooling in that area as well, but that would be my recommendation to the commission and Mr. Best as well.
All right.
I asked him if there was going to be additional impervious area added. He said he wanted to dredge a little bit and then fill it back up. And I told him that that would require a notice of intent. So if he's trying to avoid the cost of a notice of intent and all the trouble, I think his best option would be to move the shed to the front of the property.
All right. Now, what I was hoping to be able to do was to put crushed stone down. But if need be, I can put sonotubes in. And the location in the front yard would be, I think, a bad spot because it would look strange and it would not be a good item to have in the front yard.
Harlan, if you go, can you go back to the pictures
Sure.
That you have? I have a question for Mr. Best. Mr. Best, this is Commissioner Joyce Jacobs. I mean, as you can see, particularly in the middle picture that's here, the grade there is substantial. A couple of things. To put the shed on this side of the property is going to take some engineering and a foundation with a retaining wall to hold up that side of the shed based on having been on site. As you can see, Harlan's absolutely right. There's already erosion in that area. So in order to do that, that would definitely require a notice of intent and engineered plans to show how the shed was going to be stabilized so as not to end up sliding down the bank and into the resource area. Mr. Best, I would have a question. Why did you not recommend putting it off the back side of the driveway by the back deck where it's flatter?
Primarily, okay, because in the shed, I plan on putting the riding mower and snow blower and so forth. My problem is I use a walker, and to get down to the backyard is going to be extremely awkward.
But I'm not even talking about the backyard. I'm talking about at the end of the driveway. Picture number 1 that's on the screen right now, where the the trash can is. You're still at the top side of the lot, not in your secondary location in the back that you recommended, but it's level off the back of the deck there.
Now, okay, now.
But there
you
is the
mean-
turnaround there. You would come off the back of where your turnaround is.
Okay, so you mean straight off the back?
Of the turnaround, yep, from the garage, there's a U-shaped, partial U-shaped turnaround. Why? So basically where the trash cans are in the pictures that we see, they would be to the right of that trash can and off the back end of the driveway. Whereas you're not sloping down that bank to the left.
Okay. I mean, that could be done. Now, if I went to the left of the trash cans,
To the
And
right of
actually-
the trash can.
okay. So I could go straight back.
Right.
All right. I mean, that could be done. Now, my question to you is, okay, you're worried about to the left of the trash cans. If the shed were put on sonotubes, then it wouldn't be moving or it wouldn't be sliding down that slope.
But that would require a notice of intent, and we would need to have that engineered to make sure that sonotubes are the proper application for that. Which you can do if you choose, but you would need to file a notice of intent and have engineered plans done to show that it doesn't need a retaining wall, that sonotubes are acceptable. As I understand, you're trying to not do that, but you can put it there, but it would file a notice of intent and require engineering plans to show us how you're going to hold the shed up level off the side of the driveway there.
Okay. So what would be required if I went with a notice of intent?
Well, you can work with Agent Jamie, and she will walk you through the process. There are engineering plans that are going to be needed. There's a cost to file a notice of intent. And if you want to go that route, you can work with Agent Jamie, and she will walk you through that process.
Okay. Now, if I decide that I want to put the shed straight out off the driveway to the right of those trash cans, then what would I need to do there?
Is that a jurisdictional area? Oh, go ahead, Commissioner
Yeah,
Christian.
go ahead, Mr. Christian.
The way I look at the plan and the way I look at the corner of the 50-foot buffer zone, if you move that shed just straight back 2 to 3 feet, he's not in the 50-foot buffer zone. All we're involving is that front corner, a marginal piece of the shed.
Yeah.
I would just slide the shed straight back 3 feet. Then he's not even dealing with us.
But he is, because it's a 100-foot buffer.
100-foot buffer.
And the 100-foot buffer goes through the 100-foot buffer actually goes through the house. So the whole upper
Correct.
end of the driveway, he still has to deal with this because it's jurisdictional. He talks about being in the 50-foot buffer, but jurisdictional is 100-foot.
But we'd be out of the 50.
We'd be out of the 50. He would be out of the 50-foot. Sometimes less restrictions that way. But my concern, Commissioner Christian, is the pitch and the slope. And how is he going to... The description in the notice of intent states that he's going to grade with some crushed stone and like tamper it down. And, there's too much of a grade there for that to be acceptable.
Okay, all right. Now, if I went with sonotubes, what would you need there? Just a design showing, that the shed would be level?
Commissioner Tantantarawat had a question, but
Oh, go ahead.
So if he went to the left, or if he went to the spot where he's suggesting, he would need an engineer, and he would have to prove that the sonotubes are going to prevent the erosion. But if you went straight to the right of those trash cans, he wouldn't need the engineer.
I'm thinking not. I think we ought to go back out to the site and look at it. If I remember right, Herlin, that the deck comes off the back of the house and there was a fairly level plateau, not a lot, but enough for a 12-foot shed. I would still say we should go out and take a look at it, make sure that it's level, still within the 100-foot buffer, so it's still within our jurisdiction, but we could do it under an RDA. He could just modify what he's already submitted to say the shed goes off the back. Then he could put his gravel base and the shed would go on top of it, and we would probably approve that without having to file a notice of intent and have engineered plans. I am of the opinion that if the shed still stays to the left of where that trash can is because of the slope, that's going to need a notice of an intent and an engineered plan.
Okay. Now, if I went straight off the back of that turnaround, it's fairly level there. Would that be okay?
It might be once we look at the site, Mr. Best. I think we should go back out there, do a site visit, and just make sure it's level enough for the size shed that you want. If it is, you can just modify the RDA that you've already submitted and just show that you've moved the shed to that site, and then we would discuss if that's acceptable, which at this point I think might be.
Okay. All right. So then the committee or some of the members would like to come back out to the lot.
Yes.
Sounds like it, Mr. Best.
Okay. That's fine. When would you like to come out?
May I? Please. We can schedule that. I will reach out to the commissioners who are interested in attending, and then I will notify you, and we can schedule a date and time that's both beneficial for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to
Motion
continue?
to continue?
Seconded.
Okay, we have a second. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Satterfield, aye. So we'll continue this to May. Thank you, Mr. Best.
Okay.
Herlin's going to reach out to you so you can schedule them.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I can get out of the meeting now then.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
Okay, so under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for request for determination of applicability, invasive, oh no, wait, this is not invasive removals. This is Shattuck Street, sorry. Shattuck Sawmill Trail Footbridge.
What's next?
Yes.
Oh, that was me.
All set, Madam Chairman?
Sorry, yes.
It's all right?
We have a distinguished guest tonight.
Yeah, they brought me too. For the record, Mike O'Hara, 286 St. Joseph Ave, and my associate who is,
I can actually pronounce my name, yeah, thank you. It's Larry Casassa, 86 Drapanos Drive.
Welcome, gentlemen.
The reason for this is, filing is we represent a kind of ad hoc group called the Fitchburg Trail Stewards, who have been working over the past couple of spring, summer, and falls, and sometimes winters, just to upgrade and the city's trails, and put signposts up. I can provide maps for you folks if you'd like, to be able to, for folks using the trails to be able to find their way around a little bit. The subject of this filing is there's a trail that runs from a parking area that the water department has off of Ringe Road travel down maybe a 5-7 minute walk where there had been until recently a footbridge over Falula Brook. I've been over it a bunch of times in the past few years. The last 2 times I went to that bridge, and there was photographs of the bridge, I was not going over that bridge.
If I may, we actually learned about this through a referral by the mayor's office. The mayor apparently was contacted by one of her constituents who said that she felt very unsafe because of how springy the bridge was, that it might collapse. We then followed up by taking a more close look at it and realized that it was pending collapse because it could snap at any point, and because it's about a 4-foot drop or so to the
4 or
stream,
5, depending on the
and all the
water
riprap
level.
underneath it, it would have been dangerous for someone. They could have gotten seriously hurt. So we notified the water department, and John DeLine acted immediately to have someone out there to remove that bridge. So currently, it's
Yeah, it was the
there is
next
no
day,
there is no
same
way to
day.
cross.
So that's a picture showing of the location of the former bridge, and that was like the day. I think it was the same day the bridge had been removed by John DeLine's guys. So the proposal is to basically replace it almost in kind with a bit of improvement just to make it last longer. And with pressure-treated stringers, there's a schematic that Dick O'Brien, who's with the Leominster Trail Stewards and actually owns his own trail firm, Conservation Works, had sketched up at the Trail Stewards' request. So it's about. Would you want to speak to the specifics? The
Well,
width.
we had some discussion about that, and we've decided that we're going to go with a fairly narrow bridge there, no more than 4 feet, designed so that all-terrain vehicles can't ride over it into the northern watershed area. But we will probably also put handrails there because of the fact that it is dangerous if you slip off the side. And Dick has been doing this sort of work for the city, both as a forester and business owner, and also as a volunteer for us for many years. And he's designed many similar bridges over the last several decades, actually.
And Mr. O'Brien estimates that this one, if built, when it's installed, will last another 25, 30 years.
We're going to ensure that the span in this case extends beyond the retaining walls on either side, because in some cases they look like they might buckle at some point in the future. So the supports will rest beyond those points onto the solid soil behind the retaining wall. Dick seems to think it's about a 25-year lifespan bridge.
I should add the John DeLine and Nick maybe could speak to this as well, Nick Erickson, but the water department has agreed to pick up the cost for the materials and deposit it to the site, and the Fitchburg Trail Stewards would build it.
So pending an approval, we would schedule some Saturday with Fitchburg Trail Stewards and get about a dozen volunteers down there and install that bridge.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone in the public who'd like to speak about this? Thank you. Hearing none. Any commissioners have a question or would comment?
If I may, just,
Commissioner Donnelly?
you're going to replace a 4-foot bridge. The plan said 5 foot. You just said you were going to reduce it to 4,
We are going to reduce it, yes.
and not because of materials, but about traffic.
Because we don't want an all-terrain vehicle to be able to traverse it.
And if you put a post, if you put a post in the middle, that would eliminate that vehicular traffic as well.
Sure, but
And you'd have your width if it benefited you.
I hear what you're saying. We did speak with John DeLine of the Water Department about that, and he likes the idea of going with 3 to 4 feet. He doesn't think it would be best if only one person at a time could cross. And that would reduce the overall load too on the bridge.
Now, if I wanted a bridge over my brook in my backyard, would the water department cover that?
You're next on the list.
Anyone? Any other?
Erickson. Nick Erickson.
Commissioner Erickson?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Great. For the record, Nick Erickson, Commissioner of Public Works for the City of Fitchburg. I just wanted to speak in support of this project. I think that the design that's been presented will be more than adequate for the foot traffic that utilize that trail. So we're happy to support Larry and Mike and the Fitchburg Trail Stewards in getting this project done. I think the proposed work won't be very invasive to the area, little to no excavation, really just building the bridge and placing it, spanning the stream there. So I don't anticipate any real concern regarding erosion or sedimentation or anything like that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any other, Commissioner Jacobs?
Just want to say, in support of this, I think that we've seen other projects like this previously have resulted in a negative determination that we've accepted the plans as presented and they go forward with these projects.
Is that a motion, Commissioner Jacobs?
We can motion to for a negative determination on this request.
Can we simply condition that with the removal of the existing bridge
It's already done.
It has been
The old
removed.
bridge is out.
I saw the
That
beautiful.
was done right after John DeLine was informed that it was in bad shape.
Second that motion.
Okay, let's see. All in favor, Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarahfield, aye. The motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
For what it's worth, if any of the commission members want to take a look out there, contact me, I guess, and they're happy to meet you. It's far easiest from the Ringe Road side. There's a small parking area there. You could also get in from the Ashby West Road side, but it's a bit of a longer hike.
Is this up where they have or we had that storm that washed out remember that was a while ago, there was a big storm that washed out the erosion control measures that were put in place up by the water department? I was off, or am I
No,
thinking
this is
somewhere
further
else?
up Ringe Road.
Further upstream.
Oh, okay, okay.
You thinking, Madam Chair, by the Falula water tank? Remember there was an NOI
There's
a
two
couple
tanks,
years
yeah,
ago?
yeah, that's what I was thinking. So it's up
That
further than
is
that.
quite a bit downstream on Falula Brook.
Oh, okay.
This is on the upside of the reservoir.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a half mile or so.
Oh, okay.
When you guys have the attention of the board, it might be a good time to look for volunteers as well.
Yes.
You invite us up to
Welcome as the
look.
flowers of May.
You're going to build a bridge, you could use more hands, right?
We can certainly pass the word along to Harlan about
Yeah.
a date once it's established. So we'd certainly welcome anyone who wanted to come by and lend us a hand.
Thank you. All right, moving forward, we've got, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission opened the hearing for request of determination of applicability, invasive removal at Riverfront Park. Who we have speaking to that?
We have somebody virtual. We have Dr. Jessica Powell, and we have Marlon Hewell from the
Okay.
National River Watershed Association.
Wonderful. Who'd like to go first?
This is Jessica. I'm very happy to go. I'm not. If the other person wants to speak first, that's fine with me too.
Who's,
Marlon, I don't know.
is that?
Yes, I'm here for the Twin Cities Rail Trail Phase 2.
Oh, I thought.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Huell. This is the
No problem.
invasive removal at
My
Riverfront Park.
apologies.
That's okay. So the chair recognizes Jessica.
Thank you. So this is a proposed invasive species removal at Riverfront Park, which we are trying to coordinate with the city as part of the larger Earth Day celebrations that are happening on that date. This is something that we have done about 2 years ago in the park, and basically we're asking permission to come in and use loppers, pruners, maybe hand saws, all hand tools to cut and remove invasive species. The known species are things like Japanese knotweed, purple loosestrife, tree of heaven. There's probably some multiflora rose and a few other species out there as well. As you can see on the aerial photograph that Harlan just showed on the screen, there's really two proposed work areas. It's on both sides of the bank. We have permission from the private landowner on the north side to work on that, although I have to get out there and take a look at it to see if that's going to be safe, because there will be volunteers participating in this event. And then we've definitely worked on the south side before, right on the banks in Riverfront Park. And you can see the area there outlined in green. What we have arranged with the city so far, with the Parks Department, is to pile the cuttings of plant material in a few piles on the eastern edge of the park where the road access is. And then the original plan was to have DPW come and take them to the landfill. But since I submitted the RDA, the private company Been There Dump That, I think it's called, has offered to donate what they're calling a brush dumpster that we could use to free of the DPW's work time to haul the material to the landfill instead. And originally I think we were hesitant to get involved with Japanese knotweed, but the mayor's office would like to see us deal with that. So we're proposing to bag the cuttings of Japanese knotweed in plastic bags so that when it's brought to the landfill, it won't immediately sprout into new plants. And I think that's really all the information I have. We'll be recruiting volunteers to work. It'll be from 9 to 12 the morning of the Earth Day event at the park. So the rest of the main events in the park will occur after that from 12 to 3. So we'll be done and cleaned up as best as possible before that time. And the only other final detail is that we sort of plan to put some signs on the brush piles, which will be a little unsightly for the park goers, but to just explain what those plants are and what we're doing there and why there are those piles there. So that's what I have to say about that for now. Thank you.
Yes, to the PhD.
Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Powell.
I'm sorry.
Powell.
Powell. I'm sorry. Thank you, Dr. Powell. Let's open the floor for comment. Is there anyone here that would like, any members of the public that would like to speak or have some questions? Hearing none. Any members of the commission that would like to, has any comments? Commissioner Tantanaro-Watt.
Hey, Dr. Powell. My question is if there's any other further plans after cutting the Japanese knotweed. To my understanding, and maybe you can educate me on it, they have the ribosomes that once you cut it, will spread faster and stronger underground. To my understanding and my experience, the best way to do it is suffocating it above and then replanting something more native that would help smother out the knotweed. Just cutting it will just promote more growth. Is there any plans after the Earth Day event?
That's an excellent question, and what you say is accurate. I have been in communication with several people in the city, including the mayor's office, and I think Harlan has copied on these emails as well, so she's aware of this, saying something along those lines, saying basically cutting is not the best technique for dealing with Japanese knotweed. Really the ideal way, and it's less than ideal in that it involves chemicals, but the best way that has been found to deal with it is to cut and then about 8 weeks later apply a targeted herbicide. And that will actually be taken down into the roots and will kill those rhizomes that you're talking about. And then you might have to do that over 2 seasons actually, and then that would hopefully kill those plants. You can try suffocating them. It's basically the knotweed I've seen, it sort of breaks through most anything that people try to suffocate it with. It gets really sort of this powerful plant. So sometimes that might be effective, but it's not generally thought to be very effective for knotweed either. So I had just today actually been suggesting that if the city is serious about dealing with the knotweed, that they should consider following up with an herbicide application. That's not something that we at the National River Watershed Association can do because you need a licensed applicator to do that, and we don't have somebody that does that. So I suspect that there is somebody within the city that is licensed that could do that, or you could hire a private person to do that. But that's sort of a down the road project. This was a project that's sort of coming together very quickly in order to have something for Earth Day itself. So that would be a separate application. I suppose it could be approved under this application, but it's not work that would be done on April 21st, I think the date is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Erickson?
Thank you. I just wanted to speak out in support of this project. As you know, the city of Fitchburg has quite a number of parks and very limited staff members with which to maintain those parks. So any type of volunteer efforts such as this, especially focused on removing invasive species, is very welcome. And we're trying to figure out right now exactly how best to handle the long-term solution that was discussed. And it is likely that the city will end up hiring a private company to come in and do those herbicide treatments to make sure that this isn't a recurring problem. But we're also discussing potentially the suffocation technique. And that discussion remains ongoing. The city actually owns the Riverfront Park side, but it doesn't actually own the side opposite the river. So there'll have to be discussions with the landowner as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Do we have, let's see.
Can I?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Herlin.
I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Powell for all her efforts in putting together this RDA on a very short notice and wanting to participate on behalf of the National River Watershed Association. She has taken the initiative to do this for the city, and I just want to say we're really, really appreciative of what she's doing and for volunteering her time and their efforts.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Is there anybody?
Motion to find a negative determination on this RDA?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the negative determination of applicability. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly? Aye. Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Powell.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for request for determination of applicability 112 Westminster Street. Do we have, welcome.
Welcome. Good evening. Steve DeBettencourt. I'm 200 Pleasant Street, Lunenburg. I'm the applicant, of course.
So there was a site visit.
Yes.
Would anyone like to, do you want to speak to the site visit?
Sure.
Okay.
During the site visit, I think it was, March 17th?
Yes.
March 17th at 8 a.m., St. Patrick's Day, yes. Commissioner Jacobs, Commissioner Donnelly, Associate Member Bradley Pelletier, Commissioner Mark Christian, and Commissioner Tantanarwat and I were all present on site. We reviewed the shed, the proposed removal of the shed, and we walked around the property where the proposed removal is happening. We did notice that there's some erosion already happening on the head wall to the riverbank. So we asked Mr. DeBettencourt if we can apply some conditions to the removal of the shed, and he agreed. We are requesting that the shed be removed by hand, that a storage, a dumpster, you're gonna get a dumpster, correct? There's a dumpster to be placed on the northeastern side of the property. And I think towards the end, we spoke about the actual shed foundation is solid concrete. We are asking that Mr. DeBettencourt remove and dispose of the concrete properly and then add some crushed stone to help alleviate the runoff into the river, and he agreed. We briefly mentioned some erosion control, but we don't think it's feasible just because of if I can bring up a picture, just because of where the actual shed is and the riverbank. But that was basically it. I don't know if any other commissioners have any other input.
Is there any members of the public that would like to comment or ask for feedback? Thank you. So hearing none, we'll move to the commission. Okay, Hearing none, go ahead.
If we are ready, if there are no other questions, if we're ready to review the conditions that we talked about on this plan before a motion is made, I can proceed with that.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobs.
So on the floor for a motion would be the RDA for 112 Westminster Street. Parcel ID is 175-60. We are working off of plans, hand-drawn plans submitted by the applicant, dated 1/24/24. And the conditions that would be applied to this project are, one, the old garage or shed, if you want to call it that, can only be dismantled manually with no mechanical or heavy equipment allowed. The dumpster to enter the site via the right, and that's the southwest side, but it's on, as you're looking at the house, it's the right side of the house driveway only. No dumpster to be placed on the left side along the brook. The concrete floor that was under the garage shall be dismantled, removed, and properly disposed. Gravel base shall be installed to allow water to drain through the gravel, reducing the runoff that would cause additional bank erosion. Mid-size stones, quote, to be placed, we talked about doing that by hand also, in the existing erosion channel to stabilize the bank, and a certificate of compliance shall be obtained from the commission prior to any deed transfer if there's a sale of the property. So on the floor, we have possible motions would mean a positive that we find it's jurisdictional and a notice of intent and further plans should be filed. A negative motion finding that we are voting in the negative without conditions, or negative with conditions, finding that it's a negative but the conditions as we detailed above.
Thank you.
I don't want to be a fly in the ointment, but any stone that can be put there by hand can be removed by hand. So if it took a machine to get it there, I think it would be more, it would be a long-term delineation. And so I just, not using today's technology is a problem for me. And I don't mind moving stones.
I would only comment to that, Commissioner Donnelly, is that the conversation that we had when we were on site is the erosion channel is very narrow and a very precarious. Herlin, do you have that picture that you can call up? That it's difficult if we get heavy equipment on that bank. We don't want to force any additional erosion, which is why we kind of agreed on hand place.
I get it. The stone is going on the bank, not the machine. That's all. The machine doesn't have to go on the bank to get the stone there. The stone has to go there. So that's all. And if it's big enough, it'll stay. If it's not, you're liable to lose it as easy as it was delivered. That's all. It's a practical matter of getting the job done. That's all. Heck, I think you ought to use a mini excavator to get it down instead of doing it by hand. But
are we leaving the by hand?
Yeah. I wasn't going there. I was only talking about this machine is a tough. Well, it's.
Then the proposed conditions stand as reviewed.
Yes.
And we need a motion on the floor.
Do we have a motion?
All right, motion for a negative with the conditions as described.
A second. Okay. Let's see, all in favor of the motion and second, Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. de Betancourt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'll get it done as soon as I can. As soon as the snow stops.
Okay, there's that. Okay, so next is the, under Massachusetts General Law, we're moving along here. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission opened the hearing for notice of intent Oak Hill Country Club Solar LLC, Oak Hill Country Club, Shea Street. Who do we?
They've asked for a continuance.
Okay, we have a continuance. Do we have a motion to accept the continuance?
Berlin, are they just continuing to next month or beyond?
Next month, according to the peer review.
Okay, so motion to continue to our May meeting.
Seconded.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on let's see, Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat, Commissioner Sarahfield, aye. The motion passes. We'll continue this to May. And moving forward, we've got, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for NOI Mad River Solar Holdings, LLC ground-mounted solar array, 0 Ashburnham Street.
Madam Chair, I will step away as an abutter, recuse myself at this time.
The chair recognizes Commissioner Jacobs.
Joe Bush,
Recusal.
146 Overlook Road, Westminster, on behalf of the owner.
Could you repeat that?
Joe Bush, 146 Overlook Road, Westminster, on behalf of the owner.
And Matt Bombasi with Bowler Engineering, civil engineer.
And we have Becky Coes and Kristen McCabe online.
Are they engineers or are they?
They're convergent, solar convergent.
Who's going to go first? Who would like to go first?
We're getting right into
Okay, Mr. Bombasi?
Bombasi, but I take no
Bombasi,
offense
I'm
to
sorry.
anything that's close to that. So.
Mr. Bombasi.
So good evening, everybody. We last met on January 3rd, 2019. So since that time, we've been through a process. I can give a quick recap because it has been a little bit of time. This project first received approval for an order of conditions back in 2019. Received a superseding order in 2022, and then since that date, the applicant has purchased the project. I think they were asked by the commission to file a new notice of intent just to kind of package everything up, which we did. As part of the project, once they got it and once we jumped in, there were some improvements made to the project, or what we feel were improvements. The overall solar array area was reduced by about 1.5 acres, just because there were some areas we felt we didn't need to use. We made some improvements to the stormwater management system, included using some extreme precipitation data rather than the standard TR40 data to measure rainfall, increasing the stormwater basin size by about 125%, or about 7,500 cubic feet. We introduced a series of about 1,500 square feet of swales and check dams and things to help collect water and get it where we want it to go. And then also just 2 less acres of stumping and grubbing that was previously proposed. Since our meeting on January 3rd, we did receive a peer review, which was requested by the commission on the 3rd of January, and submitted updated plans and drainage calculations about a week ago. We haven't heard back from the peer review. It's been a little bit of a short time, but we did review the comments and responded. We feel pretty good that we've addressed all the comments, but obviously happy to wait and see if there are any more comments from the peer review. I can run through just some of the highlights. So some real minor adjustments to the outlet modeling and the hydrologic calcs. Just a note that a stormwater permit application is needed with engineering, which we're happy to file. Some minor erosion control notes, which we adjusted, and or suggested maybe the SWIP inspection reports be provided to the commission, which we'd be happy to do if the commission wanted them. And then, honestly, the note that had our attention the most, or we put the longest response to, was just a general engineering comment relative to surface runoff. And I did talk to Mr. Vic Partland, just want to make sure I understood the intention of his comment. I guess the concern being solar arrays do often get compacted or torn up as they're constructing them. So there's a lot of equipment that comes through. The soils get compacted. Maybe those people leave without fully vegetating the site. So we wanted to update our plans just to make sure it was clear we're committed to revegetating the site, getting it fully vegetated so it's stabilized and collecting runoff. So on the plans, we did include additional notes relative to areas being raked and tilled and decompacted, in particular areas that might have vehicular traffic on them, to make sure that they properly vegetate. We already had these types of notes on, but expanded on temporary mulching and the use of deep-rooted grasses so that as seeds planted, it doesn't just wash away, it's mulched and crimped into the ground. So that stabilizes. A commitment to 90% vegetative cover. This is a recommendation in a lot of other states' solar guidances, but basically the typical EPA requirement is 70%, but 90% being almost fully vegetated before any request for a certificate of compliance or anything like that before the commission. Also an update to the long-term O&M of the plan, just for inspection, signs of erosion, vegetation, so that if there was any erosion or dead vegetation in the future, that it gets removed and revegetated. And also just a commitment that if there isn't adequate cover as part of the initial seeding and stabilization, that we'll come back, take whatever measures are necessary to make sure it's fully vegetated, decompacted, and stabilized.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add?
No, I have nothing
Mr.
to add.
Blush.
He's a smart guy in the room, so, yeah.
Okay.
We're all in trouble.
What about the folks online from Convergence?
No, nothing additional to add. Thank you.
Nothing additional for me. Thanks.
Okay. So it looks like we're waiting for the peer review results to come
No,
back?
we have the peer review. We're waiting for a DEP file number.
Okay. So do we want, what were you thinking? When were you thinking? Oh, first of all, is it 3 years for the vegetation plan? What are we looking at? Isn't it 3 years or no?
So we would want to, I guess our commitment would be to fully vegetate it before we request a certificate of compliance. So,
But what is the regulation?
3 growing
3 years.
Three growing seasons.
Yeah, 3 growing seasons is correct.
Okay, 3 growing seasons. Okay.
So on the peer review, the calculations, are we going to go back to and have them rebutted or looked over to see if the answers on this are correct? Or are we going to also have Nick Erickson look these calculations over? Or are we just going to go with, this is the answer to the question?
For the peer review, I'm
Yes.
not sure if we've ever contested a peer review calculations. I'm not sure.
No, not the peer review calculations, their answer to the question.
Oh, their answer to the questions. Yeah, that would, I mean, we can submit their answers back to, I think that's what Mr. Bombassi just said, is that he
Yeah.
submitted their answers back to their peer reviewers, to
Okay.
Bowler, and they're waiting for them to reply.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So once we get those, we can
Okay.
kind of move forward and see what they say, if their calcs are the same, or if they feel like they're going to work or not. And I do want to make a point, I know that we're in the middle of the meeting, but I want to make a point that Bowler was using the 2019 plans. It's not referenced in their first form, but when I reached back out to them, they said absolutely they did use those plans, and they sent me a new letter.
Okay.
And I do have another question. So I believe initially part of the southern side of this project was going to be put in a conservation restriction. Is that still on the table, and how much?
What happened, right? The conservation restriction?
That's Becky Cozy. Do you know if it was placed into a conservation restriction?
Are you referring to the wetlands area that was part of the restoration plan?
Yeah, the remaining land.
The remaining land, the southern side along Stickney Road, and you just mentioned you have taken out another 1.5 acres of additional land. Is that going to be put to the conservation, and who would hold it?
It's just 1.5 acres that's not going to have solar arrays. So just this whole parcel has 15 acres of solar, but there's a lot of area outside of it that's not in the conservation restriction. So it would just be undeveloped land, I guess.
Okay, so what about the southern side that was initially supposed to go to a conservation restriction?
I'm not sure if that's already been put into conservation restriction, but I suspect that would happen if it hasn't happened already.
That takes a lot.
Yeah, we can certainly check with the landowner on that. That portion is beyond our project limits, so that would be with the landowner to confirm that it was put into the conservation easement if that was previously requested. But we can look into that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cozy. Do we have,
Yeah. So the replies that we got tonight will be given to Dillison Roy Civil Design to review acceptable answers. The answers are acceptable. So I'm talking, I guess, to Dillison Roy to consider one thing. Comment 17. It said, prior to the installation of any portion of the solar array, proposed stormwater management basins and swales will be installed and serve as temporary settling basins for construction runoff. Always a bone of contention when a development's going in. They make temporary storage, they get their project done, and then we wait for performance on the finished basins. So I'm wondering if we can sequence it so we can get a finished basin. I don't think that putting in, you're going to, am I correct that you're going to drill in, auger in the supports for them? So there's not a heck of a lot of disturbance in doing that. At least that's what we've been told in the past. So it would seem to me that we can get those conservation measures installed and growing, the sooner the better, and they can continue with the work. So the idea of getting it substantially completed before construction begins, or excuse me, not temporary, but permanent. Can we get some permanent stabilization and detention basins rather than temporary basins? And I get the problem. I understand they could fill up. Well, they could fill up over time and they'd have to be emptied. We're just reducing the amount of time they might fill up. They might fill up overnight, and you'd have to empty it. At least it'd be functioning, it'd be finished, and we'd have a guarantee that they're done when the project's done, and they're reaping the benefits of the project. We get what we need for flood control for the most part on that southern thing. So I'm addressing Dillis and Roy. I hope that they'll consider that as a possible condition. And then further on comment number 19, the proposed 18-inch culvert is calculated to have a capacity exceeding the 25-year storm event. It's come to the CONSCOM's attention and to everybody's attention that we're getting more rain events, more flooding, a 25-year event. That's standard practice. Is it beyond standard practice? Is it looking forward to more rain events, greater rain events?
So the 25-year storm event we would have used would be the extreme precipitation, so the NOAA Atlas data. So it's a little more than maybe has traditionally been used for the 25-year storm event, but it's common engineering practice to use the 25-year storm.
And I guess I would just ask Dillis to look at that, and if it's acceptable to them, I guess who might argue that? We're paying them to advise us. Thank you.
Commissioner Christian?
I still feel, back to my question, are we going to go after the landowner to give us an answer if that land is going on conservation restriction?
I think it's our only option to, yeah. I don't think that the engineering firm.
No, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So we are going to go have the owner.
Yeah. If that's what the commission wants, yes. The commission wants me to ask if the owner is going to put his property in a conservation restriction, then I can do that.
The unused portion on the
Correct.
southern side.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we were told?
Was that part of the original
I don't know.
2019 condition, or we're just trying to go back and reference it again? We're inheriting this project, right? So we're trying to go back in time here a little bit, right?
So that's where I think
Yeah.
it's falling between the cracks.
Okay.
So this would come with the owner.
Okay, so that was part of the 2019.
Yes, the
deal
original
then.
pitch,
Okay.
probably.
Yeah,
from
just
the
so
planning.
my team is clear where to go back to say like, okay, this is what they were looking for, right?
Okay.
And so, yeah, if we can reference there, and then we can talk with the owner certainly and see where that was left. So,
thank you.
Cool.
Need that be separate from Dillis and Roy's oversight? Does it have to be separate? And can we keep it? Can we keep one package and not separate the packages?
But it's not the engineering group, it's the owner.
Understood. It's the project
Okay.
on private land being developed by a third party. The violations all go back to the owner of the property. And this isn't a violation, but it's a promise.
Yes.
And it's got to be deliverable, and that's a promise that has to be deliverable. The land's not going anywhere.
I think if we can find proper documentation that states that this was in the original plan, of course.
Is it also something that we could add as a condition, though?
I don't know. I don't know if I would have to do my due diligence in looking up what jurisdictional rights we have when it comes to imposing a conservation restriction to a property owner. I'm not sure if that falls under the Wetlands Protection Act because we are imposing a very expensive land use for a private property owner. So I cannot say within my well right that, yes, we can do that. I would have to go back and do some research and see if that's a possibility.
This is the planning board, for any development, they've got a right to set aside open space when a developer's looking for special permit and/or variance. And they can condition it to open space. And so is it out of our jurisdiction and in planning jurisdiction?
I would have to research that. I know Joyce has a comment.
Okay, thank you to the commission for your comments and questions, but let's open the floor for public comment. I don't want to forget about any public that might be here to talk. We have some distinguished members of the public here. Councillor Kuchar, did you have any comments, or you're just? No, I'm just. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. Joyce Jacobs, 778 Ashburnham Street. I am an abutter to this project and speaking on behalf of myself and the neighborhood, not as a member of the commission tonight. Just as an update for everyone that's been here as we talk about the conservation restriction. When the project was originally proposed in 2019, part of the agreement and the enticement to allow the project was there is this wetland that flows along Stickney Road on that outer edge of the property, still part of the Deneuve property. Mr. Deneuve had agreed to put that tract of land in conservation restriction, and you will see that in the 2019 plans. I do not believe that it's written in an order of condition, because that is not something that we condition, but it is something that Mr. Deneuve in 2019 agreed to do as a subject of approving the original 2019 plan. So if we're saying this plan is based on what was acceptable in 2019, then the conservation restriction should still apply, and you will have to speak to Mr. Deneuve on that condition. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public, either in person or joining us virtually, that would like to comment or? We have Eileen Sheehan with her hand raised. Chair recognizes Eileen Sheehan.
Yes, this is Eileen Sheehan of 227 Stickney Road. And Stickney Road is to the east of this property, not the south. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Is that, did you have anything further?
No.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, all right, so that being said, we have a motion to continue?
Motion to redirect the Bowler's comments to our third-party review.
Second.
Okay, are we?
That's already happened.
I was,
Motion to
we need to continue?
continue until Bowler returns with their comments.
Okay. Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donald?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sairfield, aye. And so the motion continues. We can have Commissioner Jacobs come back up.
And I wanted to note that I did reach out to Mass DEP, our circuit rider, in regards to your DEP file number. She said she was going to work on that.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. What's next? Okay. So moving forward. Moving forward, we're doing great. Under Massachusetts general law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent, City of Fitchburg, Twin Cities Rail Trail Phase 2. Do we have, this is Marlon Huel
And Andrea Kendall.
and Andrea Kendall. Okay, thank you. Speaking to the project.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Marlon Ewell. I'm with Stantec Consulting. We are the civil engineering firm designing this project. And as you mentioned, Andrea Kendall is here as well with LEC, environmental consultant. So I guess as you all are aware, this project has been continued to tonight's hearing based on the status of some property owner signatures. So ultimately, Mass DOT will be constructing this project. So with that in mind, we've discussed kind of the status of this signature matter with them. And essentially their position on signatures, I believe, has been explained to both Herlin and then perhaps the commission as well by Amy LeBlanc with the city. I guess if that position is both understood and acceptable to the commission, we would request that the hearing be closed and I guess move towards issuing order of conditions. Sort of essentially all we have for this evening in this project.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Huel. Andrea Kendall, do you have anything to add?
I don't. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing? Please, thank you for your patience. Do we have anyone joining us remotely who would like to speak in favor of or against this hearing? Hearing and seeing none. Let's turn to the commission. Do we have any commissioners with any comments to add?
I guess I only have one comment. I don't know how comfortable are we moving forward where there will be, I understand that there will be some eminent domain taking of some of these properties that the signatures that are not available currently on the application. So we could, I guess, add a condition if we were to approve this project that either that process has to be completed, the eminent domain taking, before they could I'm not quite sure what the language would need to be.
Right-of-way compliance.
Right-of-way compliance, and that would be done by the eminent domain. So that would have to be garnered before they could proceed. And they would have to do that anyway, but I guess that this is, how do we factor that into our order of condition? And you can't really issue carte blanche, go ahead, when you don't have all the abutters and the landowners saying you can go ahead. There is going to be legal action that's going to be taken here. So I think we can condition it that approval has to be met before they could proceed. Harlan, if that's
From
what
my
I'm
understanding,
thinking.
this is something that's happened in the past. Mass DOT takes care of all of this. It's standard procedure for them. It's not something that they're not familiar with. So I'm led to believe that if we issue the order of conditions, they will satisfy, the taking is going to happen. There's no other way around it. So the project's going to move on. The taking is going to happen. Whether it happens today or tomorrow, I'm not sure. So they might need maybe an extension, but it's going to happen.
Would you be comfortable with us issuing the order of condition without any verbiage connecting our order of condition to the takings? Or do you think we should put that in?
Well, we do have, there is an administrator for the road division of Mass DOT who can get us that verbiage if need be. So there's a department in charge of this, and they have the verbiage for things like this that can be provided to us. Whether you guys want to do that or issue the order of conditions before we have that verbiage to review or afterwards would be completely up to you. I can request it, and then we can review it during next month's meeting, or we can move forward with the project knowing that the taking is going to happen and that the project is going to move forward.
How does this differ from any other applicant and notification cards? At this point, at this juncture, not in future, but an applicant notifies abutters and we proceed. And absent any notification to abutters, we don't do anything.
The abutters have been notified. It's the signatures of the property owners.
Yeah, because they're crossing over these parcels.
Yeah.
And they have not, so they're really a party to the notice of intent. And they are not signed on to the notice of intent because the work is actually going to be done on their parcel. They're not just an abutter. They are literally a party to the notice of intent.
They have notice. Yeah,
Correct.
okay,
Right.
all right. They have notice.
And they have not signed as accepting this notice of intent filing.
That's understandable now. Yeah.
So, Herlin, can we issue an order of condition with standard conditions, because there really is, and I don't believe anything else that's going to apply here. But and Mr. Huell will see if this is acceptable, and then ask for that verbiage and how they proceed. And if we need to come back and modify the order of condition, then we can do that, because we have the ability to modify an order of condition. If they feel if you talk to that department, Herlin, and they say they feel that it's something we should add to the order of condition, we can come back and modify the order of condition. But as it would be tonight, we would approve the project with just our standard conditions.
Yes, I think we can do that.
Motion to approve with our standard conditions.
Okay, second.
Okay. Got a motion and second to approve standard conditions. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Satterfield, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All of this.
Yes, excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And next we've got, all right, we're moving forward here. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, where am I here? This is, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent. Brennan Industries Incorporated, construction of single-family home, 28 Goodfellow Drive.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Cleaves. I'm with Haley Ward here on behalf of Brennan Industries. So this is our second hearing before the commission. We've had a site walk since the last one, with some of the members were able to attend. I guess I'll just jump into some of the updates to the plans since our last meeting and from that site walk. So plans pretty much the same. The minor updates we've had is we noted locations of conservation signs to be placed on 4-inch by 4-inch pressure-treated posts. As kind of was discussed on the sidewalk locations that seem to make sense. So those are labeled on the plan with an X and a circle around them. And then added, because we figure it's going to be going in a below-grade propane tank. It's shown on the left-hand side of the house. If you're looking at the plan in front of you, it's shown outside the buffer zone. Also, change the sewer ejection pump from an indoor unit to an outdoor unit. Again, outside the buffer zone, but that's a change that was added to the plan. The front porch originally was just shown across about half of the front of the house. They're going to extend it across the entire front of that house. Again, out of the buffer zone, but that was another change to the plan. And another change based on follow-up with a abutting property owner, which was nice to help point us in the right direction, Mr. McNamara. There was an updated covenant that was recorded for this subdivision. We were working off of the original one. Then the developer at the time, a few years later, updated the covenant. And in the updated covenant, there was a provision to maintain a 15-foot uncleared area along the side property lines. And so we didn't have that information in the beginning. So it was great. Mr. McNamara was able to get that to us. So one of the other changes, as you'll see, the green area kind of got pulled in, and we're showing and noting to maintain a 15-foot vegetative buffer per the covenant, and I referenced the book and page number on there. So it wasn't a zoning thing or a conservation thing. It was a covenant that the developer had put on when he built out this subdivision. There were some other things in there too, minimum square footage of house, which we meet that, and other things. So it's good. Again, thanks to Mr. McNamara for bringing that to our attention so that we could update our plans accordingly. One of the other things to note, though, on the left-hand side or the westerly part of the property, that land is already cleared. It's already grass. Looks like it probably was done as part of the development of the lot on the left. So that is already cleared. But we made a notation on the plan for that, so there was no confusion later on why that area is cleared. It's currently already cleared. So those are the updates from the site walk in our last hearing, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cleaves. Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information?
We have Mr. McNamara online.
Okay, we've got Mr. McNamara. The chair recognizes Mr. McNamara.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I thank you to Anthony, Mr. Cleaves, for recognizing the 15-foot setback. I appreciate that. The only other question I have, and I put this in comments to Herlin when I sent along the amendment to the deed covenants, is the house kind of situated midway between my property, my house, and the other house? It looks like it's pushed to my side a little more than it should be when I look at the numbers. And I just wanted to mention that there is one of the covenants is that the house should be situated midway between the houses on the abutting properties. So I may not have enough information to determine if that's the case.
It's not exactly midway. It's 30 feet off of Mr. McNamara's property line and 53 feet from the other. But I think it's, relatively speaking, still in the middle of the lot. It's not up against one or the other, like some of the other ones, like you see the adjacent house to the left. Yes, that one is absolutely not in the middle of the lot. It is right up against our property line. So I think in the spirit of that provision, it is somewhat in the center, not pushed more towards one side completely than the other.
And Madam Chair, are we getting off topic a little bit that item would not be jurisdictional?
I was just going to ask if that was jurisdictional.
Yeah.
So we need to keep our comments to the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, Mr. McNamara.
Okay, I'm only bringing it up because when I spoke the last time, I mentioned that was something I was requesting the commission to do. If that's not something you can do, then that becomes a moot point.
Thank you.
Then I'll just deal with the developer separately. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that is joining us remotely that has a comment about this hearing? So then let's turn to the commission. Is there any commissioners with questions or comments? Commissioner Jacobs?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Anthony, the other point that we want to bring up that we talked about, we'll go over this in the summary, but the 2-foot elevation that you would allow we would allow, right now on the plans it was at 803 elevation, 803. We would allow you to go 2 feet higher to 805 top of concrete. And that is jurisdictional, and it addresses any stormwater runoff onto Mr. McNamara's property. If it needs to be modified any higher than that, you'll need to submit for approval to the commission.
No, I think that's, we fully support that and appreciate that, that leeway where if for some reason, some unforeseen situation where we need to raise the house 6 inches to a foot. We very much appreciate that flexibility, but understand that I think 2 feet was a number that seemed to make sense. Anything more than that, we'd be before this commission with an updated plan and a discussion on that. So we very much appreciate if that would be a condition. I think that would be fantastic for us. Thank you.
And the only other thing that I guess I'd like to bring up at this point, it does show on the plans, we walked the site and we picked out 2 locations where 2 no disturb signs would be placed, and they are now reflected in the plans either on a post or a tree. But to that end, per the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance, our no disturb signs shall be those available from the conservation agent, remain in place in perpetuity, and the applicant will be charged the standard per fee sign. They're red.
Yeah, no, and if I can, I know we've kind of informally discussed it a little bit. If it's possible to bring the discussion again to the commission for consideration, if possible, if now is an appropriate time to do that or not, please let me know about the signs.
Well, we're talking about Brennan Industries, 28 Goodfellow Drive.
Correct. Yep. Because I mean, it's going to be applicable to this and future. If possible, what Brennan Industries would like the commission to take into consideration is an alternative style of sign, something not as red, but something kind of more. I don't know if the word environmentally friendly, but more green, where a lot of other communities that Brennan Industries works in that we work in, a lot of communities have like a white or a green sign that's posted. So Mr. Brennan had signs made up just for you to have an idea of what a possibility to consider, just for your consideration.
I've seen them, Kathy. If you want to look, yeah,
if you're interested, the same style, same design. Just instead of the red background, a green. Pass those along if you're just asking the commission for consideration in that. I know, some of the higher end houses, people get particular with colors and things like that. So this was something we looked at that would still provide the message, still visible. If it's on a post or a tree, it's still going to stand out and have the exact same wording, but just instead of the bright red, there's just a consideration.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cleaves.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Christian.
I think we're going red for a purpose, and we want it to stand out. And my opposition would be, you want green today, where do we go with the next builder? Yellow? Pink? We're setting precedents by, I'd rather see one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion.
Well, appreciate it. Again, just want to bring it up to the commission for consideration. It's a standard we've seen in other communities where they tend to be, it's more green. But I just wanted to bring it up for discussion, just to appreciate the consideration. That was it. Thank you.
So Anthony, just to point, I'd like to also reinforce that. I totally agree with Commissioner Christian.
Sure.
You know, we had the conversation about setting precedent with the 15-foot buffer before we knew that it was in the covenant. And you were pretty adamant about not doing that because that was going to set a precedent going forward. Yeah. I think this would do the same thing. It's like, do we put a purple sign? Do we put an orange sign? Do we put whatever? However, we do, in our ordinance, in the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance, item 3.9, it says, no disturbance zone demarcation. To maintain the perpetual integrity of a no disturbance zone and to ensure that there will be no encroachments into this zone by the applicant or future owners of the subject property, the commission may require the no disturbance shall be provided to the applicant by the commission at the owner applicant's expense. And this is written into our ordinance. So it's pretty much, it doesn't literally say sign, but it says we give you the material that you're to place there and we charge you for it.
No, I understand.
So,
No, we're not contesting any of that. It was just if we could do a different style. That was all. And he would pay for
So
it.
I would not be in favor of that. I think it should be the red.
Commissioner Donnelly?
When he said different style, I think he may have meant just different color.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's the point.
Well, how many red ones do we have out, commissioners? So there's nothing different about green versus red, because there's no red ones out.
Yeah, that's what we've been handing out for some time. Mr. Mike O'Hara had red signs developed some
Herlin
time
has
ago.
a comment.
Mr. Ian Brennan picked up 2 red signs in my office. I handed them to him directly.
How many are posted on Conservation Commission's order of conditions request? Anybody? Because I don't know of any.
There
I know
are.
we may require them, but I haven't seen them. I mean, and the red should stand out, right? I don't know, the question is Leominster has blue and Fitchburg has red. Do we have to continue in a conservation mode to go with Fitchburg colors? That's all. And that's the question he has, that's the question I have, that's all. Green is a earthy color. You can overlook it. I don't think the landowner overlooks it, but everybody else can overlook green. They can't overlook red.
That's the point of it.
Yes.
The old homeowner won't overlook black. The homeowner won't overlook any color. What you're trying to do is fool the rest of the public that it's not there. You want it to be invisible. It will never be invisible to the homeowner, red or green. It's their backyard, you know. They own it. They should love it, you know. It doesn't have to be offensive, and I think what you just said is that you want it to be noticed.
Yes.
Offensive.
I don't think I would call it offensive.
Okay.
We're here to represent the wetlands and see that the wetlands are taken care of. That's our main mission. And one of the ways that we do that is we say, here, stop, don't go there, with a red sign.
Green space.
You know, it's funny. I expected to be having this conversation with Anthony, not Commissioner Donnelly.
Well, no, back up, because I disagreed. No, I didn't disagree earlier. I entered into a discussion earlier at a discussion phase. And right now, I am entering into a discussion at a discussion phase. That's all I'm doing, is entering into a discussion with my fellow Conservation Commission members. I don't like him.
Anthony, you started this.
No, I know. He hasn't liked me for a long time, so that's okay.
I know we got too off.
So again, it was just a consideration.
Let's just take a moment here. Commissioner Christian, do you have a comment that's relevant to this conversation?
I'd like to make a motion that we decide, and I would like to see the red be the uniform color that we go forward with. The signs provided by our conservation agent.
Okay, so you want that to be part of the condition?
I want it to be a motion going forward, all signs are the ones we provide.
Okay, but right now we're talking about, we can get to that,
Okay.
and I appreciate that. But right now we're looking at the Brennan Industries 28 Goodfellow Drive.
So we're talking about green or red?
Do we have a motion
But
for,
to that, I can answer Commissioner Christian's thing. In the possible order of conditions that we wrote, per the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance Item 3.9, only the no disturb signs available from the commission agent shall be used and remain in perpetuity. And it happens to be those are the red signs. And the applicant will be charged the standard per fee sign.
So I think, I don't know if it makes it easier, we were basically requesting the commission to consider that alternative sign. You can very easily say no. And then that's it. You go back to how the bylaw is written. You know, if you said, yeah, no, we would be in favor of that, then it would be, we would now provide signs, you know, to the conservation department, and we would pay for that and provide that. So I don't know if it makes it easier, but basically just had a request to consider an alternative background color, and you can very easily say, no, thank you. We're going to stick with the city approved and issued signs.
So we could have the same conversation 5 minutes from now when we discuss Will Thompson Way.
I'm not going to ask again. if I know the answer on one, I'm not going to ask again.
okay.
So if we are at the point where we'd like to review what options or possible orders of condition on the floor for this project, Anthony, if you have any more questions for us?
No, that was unfortunate. I mentioned that one question.
Thank
all
you.
set. Thank you.
So currently on the floor is 28 Goodfellow Drive. The parcel ID is identified as 120R211. Mass DEP file number is 1550744. And the plan being approved or would be approved with this motion is utility site plan revised dated March 22nd, 2024. Possible orders of condition. Fitchburg Conservation Commission standard conditions would apply. We have additional special conditions. Current top of concrete elevation as detailed on the plan is 803.5-foot elevation. If any adverse site conditions require an increase in the top of concrete elevation to above 805.5 feet, this would require a modified plan be submitted to the commission for approval prior to proceeding, as noted in Plan Revised 3/22/24. Special condition, additional condition number 2, the amount of tree clearing along the outer edge of the buffer zone shall be limited to retain as much natural vegetation whenever possible. Item number 3, a certificate of compliance shall be obtained from the Conservation Commission prior to any deed transfer. And we have additional perpetual conditions to remain is 1, 2 no disturb signs shall be placed at agreed upon locations as shown on revised plan dated 3/22/24 and placed on a 4x4 post or tree and remain in perpetuity. And lastly, for the Fitchburg Wetlands Ordinance, item 3.9, only the no disturb signs available from the conservation agent shall be used and remain in perpetuity, and the applicant will be charged the standard per sign fee. Motion can either be possible to approve as just indicated or motion to deny.
Motion to approve.
Can I ask one question, possibly, just for clarification? There was a condition about a certificate of compliance prior to deed transfer. I know many times when you get your occupancy or deed transfer, all the grass may not have been growing, just yet, and you can't get a final certificate of compliance. So I guess like in a situation like that, I'm not saying that would be the case here, but is this a condition that's becoming standard now in the city of Fitchburg?
It is. It's something that we're using. And if Herlyn goes out and she sees that that the grass has been planted and it is growing, and in her and she feels that the site work has been done. And this is different from a replication area that might have 3 growing seasons, right, and then this wouldn't apply. But if it's a standard job, what we're trying to achieve now is people are forgetting this last step to get the certificate of compliance. So if the landscape is in place and she feels that everything is comfortable, then we would ask that the certificate, to follow your due diligence and get a certificate of compliance.
Right, but I say, but what you're not asking, you're putting a condition that the deed, you can't sell that lot until you get a certificate of compliance, is what that condition just meant. So if any house or any property were to be completed in January and homeowners are ready to move in, they can't, because you couldn't transfer the deed because you couldn't have grass growing. You couldn't have planted your trees until the spring and you get growth until late spring. So now the homeowners can't move in, the house just sits there. I understand what you're saying. It does happen where that certificate of compliance doesn't get picked up until there's a deed transfer. Usually that's, the attorneys do the title research and see, oh, there's an open order.
Right.
You need to close that out. So I just see, not so much this project, but in many projects, that is probably going to be a stumbling point depending upon when construction ends. If you don't have your site stabilized, or you can't remove your erosion control, so you still need an open order of conditions to do anything there. But so that means you can only sell a house in spring and summer after construction. You wouldn't be able to do it any other time.
So Anthony, let me ask you on an engineering side then. The order of condition is based on the applicant, and the applicant is the builder. Once that deed changes hands, the responsibility then reverts to the new owner.
Yep.
But if they're not responsible for planting the trees, and they're not responsible for doing the landscaping work, so this is kind of like where we're at, because the order of condition was issued to the builder, and here are the restrictions that are put on it in the first place. And then we get people buy these houses and then say, oh, by the way, now the drainage basin wasn't completed or something else wasn't done, and it's now their responsibility, and we're chasing somebody who was not involved in that process in the first place.
Yeah.
The chair recognizes Agent Jamie.
I just wanted to make a point of reference that in order to receive a certificate of occupancy from the building department, all other permits within the city must be closed out, including the order of conditions.
That's never been the case in any community, ever.
Madam Chair, may I address the applicant? Would this motivate a developer from here on in to get their ducks in a row and do the landscaping ahead of a lot of the finished work in the house?
Possibly, and possibly in a sense that you're doing it when you shouldn't be. You could be planting trees and trying to get stuff growing, and it's just going to die. It's going to look good, and you're going to get your sign off, and then a year later, it's going to be dead because they didn't plant it at the right time. I think that would be the flip side of it. Yeah, you might push people to do that, but you're going to be pushing people to get to that end line, maybe not the right way they should be doing it. So, many times we've asked for partial certificates of compliance, or I've seen other communities do where during occupancy, because again, grass isn't growing yet, and you're trying to get sign-offs, and the only thing that's left is for the grass to sprout. We've seen communities require a developer to submit like a proposal from an engineering company that says we've engaged XYZ to perform the required as-built plan and certificate of compliance, so that it's something that shows that we're not forgetting, we're just waiting for the last final steps to be done, so you know that we've engaged XYZ to perform the required, because certificate of compliance is not just your agent going out there and saying it's okay. You have to submit a request form. If there's a plan, you have to have a professional engineer do a site inspection. And I don't know if Fitchburg is requiring it now, but many times you require an as-built plan.
Right.
So that's not something that your agent can just go say, yeah, that's good. You need to have an engineering company, a surveying company to do that. So we've had communities do that as part of the occupancy process where, all right, if conservation is going to sign off, I want you, developer, to tell me you have lined up the next step. Just other ways to try and get through the process where both the commission is protected, because it's not uncommon. I hear what
Right,
you're saying.
and that's what, you know,
Yeah.
so this is an open for discussion, because this is where we're at. I mean, too many times now, this is not getting done. And then our remedy is through the holder of the deed. It's like anything that doesn't get done stays with the property. And that's nobody wants to go to a new homeowner and say, you didn't build your detention basin, you didn't plant the trees that were supposed to be planted, you know, all the things that you're talking about. So we're trying to alleviate that now, you know.
Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from, because quite often we're asked years down the road to do a certificate of compliance because of the next property transfer.
So they didn't get caught the first time.
Yeah.
And if there are no issues, then that's okay. Right. But if there are issues, then that's what we're facing right now.
Yeah.
If you'll excuse me, we have a motion on the table. And can I have a second to that motion? Or, I mean, do we have more discussion that we want to have?
Contingency fee or a holdback?
We can.
Well, once again, I think what's going on here is that the occupancy certificate is tied to all the other certificates being closed.
Yeah, it's not common for an occupancy to be held up due to not having grass growing and not having a certificate of compliance. I don't know that I've ever had to file a certificate of compliance prior to an occupancy. We've had to have every commission, every department has to sign off on their requirements. Many times it's been, yep, your application area is where it should be. Everything looks good except your grass isn't growing. Conservation signs up on the occupancy. And then you can't get your certificate of compliance to close out your order of conditions from conservation until you have everything, every I dotted and every T crossed. Very rarely have ever seen an occupancy permit held up because of that.
I just want to play devil's advocate. So we've had certificate of occupancies held off for landscaping, for planting. Wouldn't it be the same thing? If a bush isn't planted, planning says no, and then that certificate of occupancy isn't issued, wouldn't that be the same as grass being planted?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had that particular case. I mean, we've had a lot of times, and sometimes you get a temporary occupancy. But I've never had someone say, you can't go in your building because that tree's not in. Maybe a temporary occupancy.
This is going to play out in 5 minutes when we talk about Will Thompson Way. We have people living there, and we don't have our boulders or our signs there yet.
Okay, let's keep this with
All I'm making
Brennan
a comparison.
Industry. Okay.
That's the end result.
Commissioner
we lose
Tantanaro.
leverage once it's, you know.
Is
Commissioner
maybe I don't know
Tantanaro,
the proper wordage, but is there something that we put in the restrictions that there is something in escrow where if it isn't built before we sign off, or it isn't planted by the time they sign off, then the builders have to provide funding as backup?
Well, I think that's kind of what I was alluding to, and I think Commissioner Donnelly was heading that way too. What we've had to do is provide an engineering proposal to the applicant, to the developer, and then that goes to the attorneys, and that goes into escrow, gets held back at closing. So there is money set aside, so all the parties involved know, hey, there's one more step left to do, and here's what it's going to cost to not to develop it, but to get the sign off. So
would that be something that we're allowed to put in the conditions where if the house is finished during a certain time frame, November to March, then the money has to go into escrow?
I don't think that's within our jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act.
So can we change the verbiage then, and we will modify this motion that's on the floor to at least a partial certificate of compliance shall be obtained.
Can we strike the word obtained and just put applied or requested? Number 3, a certificate of compliance shall be requested. So in writing, it's requested, and he knows his shortcomings on that request. And then we allow for the holdback and/or the contingency fee. So strike the word obtained from the conscom and put the word
But
requested.
we will have to add as a condition that should there still be outstanding work to be done that will take place after the sale or after the deed transfer, I don't know how we write that.
We deny it we deny it, we list the conditions for the denial.
We
Deny
can do,
it,
we
don't
can do,
sign
you can do a partial,
Right, that's what I'm saying, at least do a partial
partial
certificate
and
of
then
compliance.
list.
And then in order to get the partial, you would still have to put a deposit and a plan for how this is going to be finished later.
Right, for the commission to sign off on that, the next step.
So can we modify the motion then with this to say that a certificate of compliance shall be applied or requested from the Conservation Commission prior to any deed transfer?
Brings the issue to the shortcoming to the table.
Would you be comfortable with that, Anthony?
Yeah, I guess in my mind, just trying to think in the sequencing, of that. Because that does take, to do it properly with an as-built plan, that does take time. You could have all of the finished work, done, rough graded, and you get your survey crews out there and you generate the plan. So that there's lead time in that too, to do that.
And we're continuing to work on this,
Yeah.
but so.
I didn't know,
request
is
that
there a
the-
way to do, submit a certificate of compliance, or provide equivalent documentation, leading to that escrow, that money is being held back to accommodate the certificate of compliance process.
Mr. Cleaves, we do appreciate your comments. Thank you. I think that we have a motion on the table. We're having some conversation about it, remembering that you represent your client right now, not the commission.
No, I understand that,
And-
but at the same time,
yes.
if there's a condition that isn't acceptable to us, we're going to have to appeal. So this is a nice discussion. I'm just trying to help the discussion. That's all.
Thank you.
If I overstepped my bounds, I apologize.
No. Thank you.
Trying to help out.
Thank you, Mr. Cleaves. So we
Okay,
have a motion on the table.
Modification to the motion that's on the floor. Certificate of compliance shall be requested from the commission prior to any deed transfer or provide plans for completion of the project. Provide plans and timeline for the completion of the project.
That's the new motion. That's the modified motion.
Yes.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Could I hear that once again, Joyce?
Certificate of compliance shall be requested from the Conservation Commission prior to any deed transfer, requested instead of obtained, so they don't have to have it, they have to apply for a certificate of compliance, or provide plans and a timeline for completion. And at that time, we can request there be a deposit held for any non-compliance.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the table. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
And Commissioner Satterfield, aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Cleaves.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you really caused some trouble tonight.
I'm sorry. Hopefully, we'll see with the next one.
Drive safely,
Hopefully it doesn't
Mr.
continue.
Cleaves.
I'm still staying.
15 Old Thompson Way.
Oh, goodness. Oh, you're not leaving yet.
No.
Okay. Oh, goodness. Okay. So,
Now, Anthony, do you want your signs back?
I think I'm
Can ask them to update the city seal.
You're welcome. Okay, now, we've got under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent Garrett Patterson, construction of 2-unit dwelling, 431 Mechanic Street, continued. Who do we have to speak to the notice of intent? Scott Jordan. The chair recognizes Scott Jordan.
Oops. Oh, bear with me.
Okay.
Wrong button. There you go.
I'm not sure if you can see me, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so as you folks recall, we had continued the hearing. Some commissioners have held a site walk since our original first hearing, and we were awaiting DEP comments and a DEP file number, which we did receive. Comments were minor. The main comment was to provide additional erosion control for the stockpile, which we have done in the revised plan that we provided. The only other comment was there's a garage out front to be removed, and if we were proposing a detached garage, please show it on the plan, which we are not, so that's why it's not on the plan. And those were the outstanding issues in the comments. And I think if you have any other comments or questions, we can try to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. We have, let's open the floor for public comment. Do we have anyone here who would like to speak in favor of or against this hearing or request more information? There's no one in person. Do we have anyone on joining us virtually that would like to comment? Okay, hearing none. Let's turn to the commission. Any commissioners? This is your chance to speak. If any questions, anything from the site visit that you want to bring up, or?
No, the site visit went very well. I mean, I know I questioned the parking spaces at the original hearing. Once we got out there and took a look at it, it seems to be it's far enough away from the actual resource area, so that answered my question about that. And as noted, it is in part of the special conditions, but the temporary stockpile area is shown with straw wattles now to reduce any sediment that might run into the resource area. So I'm comfortable proceeding.
Okay. Do we?
If you'd like, I will review where we're
Please review,
at.
Joyce. Please review, Commissioner Jacobs.
So this project is at 481 Mechanic Street. The parcel ID is 16927-1. Mass DEP file number is 1550746. And the plan is dated number 220015, dated 2/5/24. And
Last revision, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
Last
ahead.
revision date is last revision date looks like 3/29.
Okay. All right,
Sorry.
with a modification on 3/29/24. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the Fitchburg Conservation Commission special conditions shall apply. And in addition, should a temporary stockpile area be necessary, that stockpile area should be surrounded by straw wattles along the base of the pile to prevent sediment runoff from going into the wetlands. And possible motion on the floor to approve or deny as detailed. Motion to approve as conditioned?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Let me call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much for your patience and for waiting all night, so thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Drive safe.
All right.
Good night, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you.
Everyone. Yes, please drive safely if the weather's turned.
So everybody, go slow.
Okay. Are you doing okay?
Good night.
Thank you. Madam Chair, is there anybody on for Unitil or?
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Let's get under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission.
okay.
Will open the hearing for notice of intent, Unitil Corporation, Anode Ground Bed, Putnam Pond. Speaking to the NOI, we have Samuel Martin.
Yes, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, the chair recognizes Samuel Martin. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I work for Process Pipeline Services, where the contractor for Unitil on this project. Unitil being the utility company in the local area. So they contracted us to design this anode ground bed nearby their local gas main. The purpose of the anodes is for cathodic protection and corrosion mitigation. And there is the location of the gas main requires the ground bed to be installed in the pond of the intersection of John Fitch Highway and Pearl Hill Road. There are 12 5-foot-long metal tubes, mostly composed of carbon, manganese, and silicon. And they kind of just drop them at the surface of the pond and they sink down to the bottom. They don't get buried, and there's no kind of trenching involved at all. They kind of just sit at the bottom of the pond. So, yeah, it's basically to replace some of the anodes that have been there since the 70s that may not be doing their job as properly. So, yeah.
Mr. Martin, is this why somebody flagged the wetlands at Putnam Pond? Did you flag the
Correct,
wetlands?
yes.
Okay.
Correct. We got a wetland delineation to show that there wouldn't be any impacts in that area.
Okay. That explains that. So let's open the floor for public comment. It doesn't look like we have anyone here who would like to comment on this. Is there anyone, any friends joining us virtually? No? So let's turn to the commission. Any commissioners have comments or would like to discuss this?
You referenced 70s. I believe the anodes have been put in the last 25 years.
Okay, yeah, they may have been. I just that's just the information I got from our client. They may have been mistaken on the exact decade, but yeah, they said they've been there for quite a while, so they'd like to replace them to make sure that the gas main remains safe for all the services that it's providing.
Okay. Glenn, I have one quick question.
Commissioner
I know it's not
Jacobs?
on our transmittal fee on the NOI, but was the city ordinance fee paid also?
Yes.
Just checking. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Martin, I had a question for you about this. Regarding the water levels in this, the relation to the anode to the water levels in the Putnam Pond, or anywhere for that matter, is it the ability for the anode to do its job reliant upon a stable water level?
No, it doesn't really matter the water level. Some of these ground beds are actually just buried in dry soil. It's just that this is the closest location to one of their existing rectifiers, closest to the nearby gas main. The water doesn't have much to do with it since they sit at the bottom surface of the pond.
Okay. So, hearing no more, do we have, Joyce, would you,
Just for
Commissioner Donald?
clarification, so you could drill 5-foot holes and space them equally, and that would suffice? You could go.
Well, they're not being drilled. They just
My
kinda
point,
get laid.
there's a possibility of vertical installation rather than horizontal.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's possible. Yes,
Thank
but
you.
they'll just. I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
Just have a quick question.
Commissioner Tantanaro, what?
Hey, Mr. Martin, maybe I missed this. Is there any long-term or follow-up maintenance required for any of these nodes?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
They just are completely passive service system. So,
Herlin, do we know if Mass DEP issued their file number on this yet?
I can check. I don't think they have, but
Yeah.
I'll verify. I've been on it all night long.
Mr. Martin, bear with us for 1 second till we check on, you have not received notification of your DEP file number yet, have you?
I don't believe so. No. I can double check that as well.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I checked earlier when we signed on to the meeting, and there was no NOI, there was no DEP file number for this project.
Okay.
All right.
So, Madam Chair, the motion would be to continue to May.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you.
We did it.
All right. Okay. Yes. We're going to go from our revised agenda. We're going to start with John Fitch Highway final design,
BMP test pits.
BMP test pit locations, and I think we have Commissioner Erickson speaking to this. Thank you for your patience, Commissioner Erickson.
Of course, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. So as you are all likely aware, the city is undertaking an effort to design the reconstruction of John Fitch Highway between Lunenburg Street and Summer Street. The city's conducting this work in accordance with Mass DOT standards so that we can obtain construction funding for the project. It's a long-term process. We're anticipating that the construction work will take place in 2028 at this point. But as part of the design process, we need to conduct test pits to verify subsoil conditions for the design of the stormwater features that will be incorporated into that project. So we've proposed 4 different locations on John Fitch Highway to conduct those 10 test pits, and they'll be within the 200-foot riverfront buffer. So we wanted to make the Conservation Commission aware that we would be conducting that work. I believe the notice that we sent in contained a map showing the 4 locations, but they are approximately on either side of the Cinema World property. And then there's one next to the car wash along the southern end of John Fitch Highway across from the Bernardian Bowl. And then the 4th one is immediately adjacent to the Car Star parking lot, also near the Bernardian Bowl. So our plan is to have a soil scientist from Weston Sampson out accompanying us during the test pits. We'd be conducting the test pits in-house with DPW equipment. And we'd also install erosion sedimentation controls as necessary around the excavations while the work's being conducted. And then we'd be sure to restore the areas to original conditions, whether that be grass or just bare soil. So we wanted to provide notice to the Conservation Commission that that work would be occurring sometime over the next couple of months. The work will be conducted in accordance with exemptions allowable underneath the Wetlands Protection Act, but certainly open to feedback from the Commission and suggestions for erosion sedimentation controls, etc. So I see Herlin just put up on the screen the first 2 test pits. As you can see, they're on either side of the Cinema World parking lot. And then moving south, you see test pit number 3 right next to the car wash on John Fitch Highway, across from the Bernardian Bowl. And then test pit number 4, right at the back edge of the CarStar parking lot. And it actually looks like CarStar has encroached on City of Fitchburg property with their parking lot there, so that's a whole separate issue. But the test pit there would occur just off the edge of the pavement.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. I don't think we need, there's no further action from us, but thank you for letting us know. That's wonderful.
Of course, and if anyone from the commission would like to review these areas prior to us conducting the work and suggest any sort of erosion sedimentation controls that they'd see fit for the areas, we'd be happy to accommodate any sort of a site visit. Please feel free to reach out to me and we can set something like that up.
Anyone? No? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Thank you for your patience, too.
Thank you very much.
All right, next we've got 15 Will Thompson Way signage request. It's nice to see you, Mr. Cleaves.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Chair recognizes Mr. Cleaves.
Anthony Cleaves, Haley Ward, here on behalf of Brennan Industries. Thanks again for your time. So we submitted a request, and this is not so much for the sign discussion that we had before particularly. It was in regards to the delineation of the 20-foot no disturbance zone. On the plan that was approved, it was noted as boulders or equal. And so what we're requesting the commission to consider is if in lieu of the boulders, the or equal being placing the approved Fitchburg conservation signs on 4x4-inch pressure-treated posts. And we had requested to do the same as we're doing the boulders. You had approved the 25-foot spacing of the boulders in that case. So our request was to essentially switch the boulders out for sign on posts at the same spacing, the 25-foot on center, which is consistent with how the adjacent lot was approved. So that's the request for consideration of the commission tonight, is to, instead of boulders, the 4x4 posts with the approved signs.
Do we have any comments? Anything? I do want to note that I believe that this is the site where the silt fence is down. It's no longer operational.
It's all grassed, I believe.
Is there someone who's going to be, removing it, or are we just going to leave it there?
Nope, but we typically don't remove any erosion control until the commission says it's okay to do that. So
okay.
The next step is going to be asking for a certificate of compliance, but you can't ask for a certificate of compliance until we have
right.
Last
but the silt fence is been compromised.
It's also, the site's also stable. So if you'd like us to staple the fence back up, we can do that. I didn't know there was an erosion issue. I understood everything, the grass was in and growing and done, and the last thing to do was to put in the demarcations of the 20-foot no disturbance zone.
Okay.
So if there's an erosion issue, if there's unstable ground and the erosion control is not satisfactory to that, we can take care of that. But my understanding is the site is stabilized, and there was no reason to repair the erosion control because the site is stable, but also we weren't going to remove the erosion control if we had to then put boulders in, and that could disturb the earth, and then we need to put it back in. So it's kind of chicken and the egg thing, but it's good to know that it's not in good shape. If we need to repair it, depending upon, I guess, the outcome of tonight, we can do so.
Okay. I live right in the neighborhood. That's why I drive by it every morning.
And is everything stable? Did you see anything that was not stable?
I'm driving when I go by. I can see that the silt fence was just down. Any comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jacobs.
Mr. Cleese, then why were the boulders not installed during construction, since it was on the original approved plan?
It was proposed boulders are equal at 20-foot spacing. The lot that was approved and done right above it is approved as.
But we're not talking about that one. We're talking about 15.
Yep.
And so
yep,
why wasn't it done during construction? Something done during construction?
That would be something you do at the end of construction, once everything was kind of all stabilized, if we're going to put boulders in. But again, I think the intent was to not put boulders in, based on some discussions we had on site. It does say proposed boulders are equal, so the thought was going to be.
Well, equal is not a signpost every 25 foot. I wouldn't consider that equal to a boulder.
Well, it's equal in the sense of what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to achieve a line, a demarcation for homeowners to say, stop. A boulder doesn't necessarily say stop. I mean, it could, but, so I think it's, or equal is what the intent of those boulders are. The intent of those boulders were not to prevent cars from driving into an area, where I would agree with you, putting in a signpost wouldn't achieve the same thing. But if the intent of a line of boulders, bushes, signs, the intent is a line to notify people, let them know, you can't go any further. This is a protected area. I want you to be aware of that. And so that's what we always understood the intent, and in many communities, very similar. We have these lines, and it's just different how you choose to demark that.
And you feel you can't get the boulders in there now?
No, we can, yeah. I mean, I think we can bring boulders in there. It just didn't, I don't think it's something that the homeowners would prefer to have. Don't know that it's going to achieve the same thing that the commission, we just had a discussion about having red signs. We're just asking to switch from boulders to demarcation of signs, which seems more consistent with what the commission is doing. For example, the house right next door.
I'm not sure, based on the fact that we had the boulders positioned on the original plans. I might be acceptable to something other than just a post-it every 25 feet. Would you put up a post and rail fence? Because the intent of the boulders was to create a visual line so that you could see this is where you can't go. Brad, do you want a water?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, if I can, I mean, having 4x4 pressure-treated posts with red signs every 20 feet, that's the same. There's not rails between the boulders. You still have a visual line. I don't see the difference in this intent of having a visual line. Is it, as opposed to putting up a stockade fence where it's just
Well, I'm not saying stockade. I'm saying something like a post and rail that is you can see, and then you can use those posts to put the signs on. I just think that our intent is to draw a line that you can't go past here, and I'm not quite on board yet that just having those posts in place in this case is doing that yet.
I mean, that's respectful. I think having those signs does.
Anybody else has any other thoughts?
Can we go back up to old Goodfellow Drive? Did anybody here bring up boulders on Goodfellow Drive? How come? Because it's tomato. Boulders never came up on Phil Thompson Way. On Goodfellow, because we were dealing with time. So he's here because it's the appropriate request asking for a change in the order of conditions to accommodate the signs and not the boulders. And I make it's no surprise that I don't support the boulders, because it's a cheap, inexpensive, unattractive, cheap way for a developer to leave the site and leave the boulders on site. That's what they do. They stockpile them and then they walk away. And that's what it looks like. On the finished product, to me, will look like the boulders went up there because they didn't want to dispose of them. They didn't want to dispose of them. That's how they disposed of them. That's why I don't like them. Aesthetically, I think they're displeasing. And I think that And I don't know how you can disagree that the boulders never came up on that other site, but they're a contentious issue now on this site, only because he didn't put them up before. And I think we all know there was a communication issue. I was of the impression that he didn't have to. He was, but the conservation, it was just a conversation on site that led him to this. I just, yeah, either or. I honestly believe that either or means wood posts or boulders or equivalent. I really and truly believe that's the equivalent.
Commissioner Christian?
I have a little different insight. In the beginning, and it wasn't with you, it was with a different engineer, and it was quite a heated discussion whether or not that was even a resource area. And that got pretty heated, and I almost wonder if it was, 2 weeks ago we had a meeting, the builder came in, he took 2 red signs, he said he does whatever his engineer tells him to do. Well, was he in fact not ever told to demarcate that wetland? I would like to see it go somewhere in the middle, but I think this starts right from the beginning. There was a very, contentious argument whether or not it's a resource. And obviously, Mr. Smith, Tim Smith was there. He ruled that it was. We supported him. Now we want demarcation. It should have been done as the house was being built. I don't know if it was purposely not done, but we need to have some demarcation there.
And if I can, I don't disagree. I'm not asking to not have any demarcation. We're going to have posts with the red signs every 20 feet.
But Anthony, let's not, that's being interpreted incorrectly. It says proposed boulders are equal at the 20-foot no disturb, not placed at every 20 feet. So it was not our impression.
Sorry, I meant 25 feet on center, because that's how the other project was approved.
But that's not this project. This project was, and we told Mr. Brennan when he came in and picked up the signs that day, because he asked about it. And we said, look, if you space them 6 or 8 feet apart, very similar to what the boulders look like on John Fitch Highway at the end of Coolidge Park, that would be acceptable.
Okay.
So it's not every 20 feet.
Okay.
But it still delineates a line. And so what I'm proposing to you today is, okay, if you can't do the boulders, and as Commissioner Donnelly reminds us, maybe the boulders are not the proper way to do it, then put up a fence and put your signs on the fence post. And a post and rail fence is attractive enough, and run a fence down that 20-foot no disturb area and put the red signs on the post. If that is acceptable to you and to everyone, that might be our solution today. Or any other comments?
Do we know how many signage or signs would be posted along that proposed rail-in post, or just post?
In this case, we didn't specify because I guess hindsight is 20/20. Maybe we should have. So usually it's 2. And so that's what Mr. Brennan picked up the day that he came in, was 2 signs.
And if there was boulders, it would be every, is that what I'm hearing?
And
it would be?
the boulders should have been placed as it's shown on the plan from the top of the property down past the detention basin at every 6 feet. And so that made a linear run to say, don't go here.
So just so I'm understanding, the suggestion would be, or the proposition would be, instead of putting 2 posts that just say the mark, it would be the post with the rails at the place where the boulder should have been.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Or we can make them put the boulders in, because the order of condition and the plans say that the boulders were supposed to be there. That's up for discussion. Or Anthony, how do you feel about
No, just, the order of conditions says, permanent markers, either boulders, barriers, or similar. So I think the discussion is what's considered similar. And that's what we're asking the commission to consider. We're asking the commission to consider placing the posts every 25 feet as an equivalent, as listed in the order of condition of the plan, as a similar or equivalent alternative to the boulders. That was the request.
And I just don't think that that meets what our original intent was of that, but maybe the fence does.
Like a split rail fence?
Yeah, post and rail, split rail fence. I mean, it's decorative enough, and then you put the red no disturb signs on the couple of the posts along the way. Colleen, any comment?
No, to be honest, I feel like my input is not appropriate. This project was approved before I came on hand. There were some site visits that were done. I've actually never been on that site. So I think the commission will make the right decision. Joyce has been out there a few times, so has Mr. Donnelly and Commissioner Christian too. So
How many linear feet are we talking of demarcation?
Well, as shown on the original plan, it basically started just down from the property line of 39 and technically went down to John
about 200
Highway.
feet.
How long is that property?
It's about 200.
200 linear feet.
200 plus feet.
Of post and rail or plastic or whatever. I'm looking at the economics of it as well. You know. It does the job.
And that's less intrusive than trying to put boulders?
Well, I guess it's if I'm hearing, I'm sure you'll take action. But if I'm understanding, it's you may be giving us an alternative, being the alternative to boulders that you would be amenable to would be some kind of fencing, post and rail fence, some kind of a fencing alternative as kind of a continuous barrier. You're not in support of just the posts by themselves with signs. If I'm getting it correct, you're giving us the option to, here's an alternative that we would be amenable to. It would be a post and rail fence or something similar to
If
that.
that's what everyone,
Right,
that's my opinion. If that's what everybody else is acceptable, then yes, this is sort of a meet in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, we have to do what you want us to do. And that's, so it's, if you say, no, we want boulders, and that's what's going to go in, they're going to bring boulders in there and drop them in there. But as an alternative, I think I would appreciate that as a viable alternative for the developer to consider.
But no razor wire or chain link.
Or riprap, no riprap. Do we have a consensus here? I'd just like to keep this moving forward.
Okay.
I think we've beat him up enough tonight.
So, do you want a motion to accept post a fence with signage, or with the motion?
Well, I think that if we're gonna, now we need a modification.
Yeah, I think
Motion.
Right, the motion would be
Motion to amend the order of conditions.
amend the order of conditions to replace the boulder requirement, boulder or similar with,
If I may, to allow a post and rail fence as an alternative to the boulders.
okay.
The only reason I say that is, let's say for some reason they say, geez, you know what, post and rail fence is going to cause just as much disturbance and more money. We'll just go with the boulders. I don't have to come back again.
So that would be fine. So the amendment would be to allow a post and rail fence to replace the requirement of the boulders to be placed in the same position at the 20-foot no disturb zone.
At the builder's discretion.
And
That's a good point.
to have at least two city no disturb signs placed on posts. Is that okay, Anthony?
Yeah, however, I mean, just for your, I know you guys don't have it in front of you. Special condition number 15, permanent markers, either boulders, barriers, or similar, to be installed along the edge of the 20-foot. So basically, my understanding is the commission is
Modifying that to,
approving a post and rail fence as an approved similar
Yes.
to boulders. So it very simply just adds post and rail fence to that condition. You also have in there a condition separate from that, condition 17, that the 20-foot no disturb buffer zone shall be memorialized by at least 2 permanent markers. And that stays untouched. We're not asking to change that. It's just now the signs could go on a post and rail fence as opposed to getting placed on boulders or something else. So that remains unchanged.
Right.
You're really just
So we're
adjusting the
changing
wording of
condition
15. You're basically giving us what an approved equal would be. You're kind of,
If you, excuse me, I think what we can, maybe let's say we're just going to perhaps clarify what is written in the, what
Right,
we
because,
mean.
or similar.
Or not,
Boulders,
because we
barriers,
don't
or
have,
similar.
we're not in the,
right.
I just want to stay within the bounds of the open meeting laws and everything with what we're doing. I think
Okay.
what we're doing is clarifying.
Right, so we're clarifying that a similar could be a fence.
And we're doing this in a public manner that Mr. Cleaves is acknowledging is
So we're
acceptable.
clarifying
but
what
doesn't have to
similar
be.
means, and similar is a fence, could be a post and rail fence.
Clarifying,
So
and
we've
we're
made that
clarifying and/or equivalent to the original order of conditions. Motion to accept the new language.
Can I?
Yes, please.
So this is not a public hearing to make a modification to the order of conditions is my concern. So are you clarifying this, or is there going to be a change to the current order of conditions?
No, then I would do it as a clarification, as
Correct.
noted by the chair, that we're clarifying what is similar.
Take the motion off the table, if we can rescind the motion.
Rescind the motion.
Okay, and we're making a clarification here.
Correct.
Okay.
A clarification of what is similar. Because our similar is in condition 15, and similar can be a post and rail fence or
The original.
the original,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cleaves.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Please,
We're all
drive
set.
safely.
I can't express enough. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and I do enjoy the discussion. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, but I do appreciate everyone's input, and
Thank you, Mr. Cleaves.
and again, hopefully you drive safe as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now, moving forward, we had no forest cutting plans. From the violation and enforcement orders, we, we'd like, we have the subcommittee report, the Conservation Violation Subcommittee report. Has
I
everyone-
just distributed that for light reading over the next month, because I just completed it. It's the first one, trying to get the
Okay.
format and everything right. Please read over it, and it's going to be on the agenda for the May meeting to approve and put in our records.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. We have no certificates of compliance, no extension permits. We have an emergency certification that we need to, for St. Bernard's Activity Center debris removal. Can we have a motion and a second to ratify that emergency certification?
Yes, motion to approve, to ratify the St. Bernard's Activity emergency certification that was issued for debris removal.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwad?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield approves. Motion passes. Then we have,
You can skip over that.
okay. Then we have, what I wanted to, okay, let's go to, we have no correspondence. And then we have some minutes to accept here. I need a motion and a second to accept the minutes for the regular meeting of the May 3rd, 2023.
Motion to approve?
One moment.
Did you have a correction on that?
Nope, not a question at all. I'm just wondering, southeast corner of Electric Ave and Rollstone Road, Cemetery Department. It was listed as Sandy Road on 2 occasions. It's Sandbrook.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, where we're going from there, because there's nothing has happened, that's all. So, an agenda issue, if you will, right? And secondly, on Howe Farm Road, failing wall, no change in that. And that's it, yeah. So, the on Howe Farm Road, failing wall, no, we haven't gone any further from that. And Sandbrook,
So these are minutes, Mike, that we're,
these are minutes, we're clarifying it. I'm bringing it to the Conservation Commission that we haven't addressed those issues that were brought up on May 3rd. That's all.
Okay.
but the minutes, Herlin, just to reflect it's Sandy Brook instead of Sandy Road.
Sandbrook.
Yeah, Sandbrook.
Excuse me, Sandbrook.
Okay, motion to approve with that change?
Can we have a second?
Aye.
Okay. Let's see, Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwad?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. Now we need a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of the June 7th, 2023.
Do you have any corrections there, Mike? June 7th, do you have?
Yeah, I got it right here, yeah.
Okay.
Just Cogsall Park, Mirror Lake accessibility. It was a 3-year window, and they were going to get back. That's all, we haven't got back on that.
Yeah, we did. We did we filed it when I first started in August.
Okay, I must have abstained, thank you.
Okay, motion to approve the minutes
Second.
as presented.
Okay, Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield? Oh, Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwad?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. Can we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes for the regular meeting of the March 6, 2024?
I have a correction.
Okay.
Herlin, on page 2, at the bottom, where I say, I would recommend that we continue the order of conditions, it's actually the hearing, until those acknowledgements have been received, is the verbiage that it should be.
Okay.
Thank you. So move now
Do we
to
have a
approve
second?
with that change.
Second, Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwad?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. And lastly, a motion and a second to accept the minutes for the special meeting of the March 17, 2024 site walk. Do we have any comments?
No, motion to approve?
And a second?
Second.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwad?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. And I think, are we done? Lastly, can we have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting of the April 3rd, 2024 Fitchburg Conservation
So
Commission?
moved.
Second.
Okay, the chair adjourns by unanimous consent. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, everybody, and please drive safely tonight. And
I don't even know what it's doing out there, if it's still doing anything, or if it's...
That cold air coming in.
What?